of meads as well. What else do we have going on? Collabs, the series. We always have, some really fun label art coming out. We're doing some screen print labels now. So one of the challenges with flip top bottles is the machine that is required to reference a given point on the bottle to apply the labels so that it's perpendicular or aligned with where the flip top or bale goes. And having that correspond with the back label is really expensive, so we're not quite there yet. And so we decided, hey, let's get some of our core stuff screen print. So we're really excited about some of the art coming out. And, when you look at a bottle from, a few feet away, you can see about a third of it. And so we figured out we can kind of have like 3 stories, or like a back label and 2 stories that sort of come together to, express what this product is supposed to be about. So we've been having a whole lot of fun with graphic design. So that'll be a whole new, for us, I don't know, I guess a rebranding of certain products coming out this year as well.
Wow. It sounds like you guys have got a lot going on. I'd say I just missed all the fun.
There's always, I'm sure you got some good stuff, but yeah, no, it's nonstop. I think I've got this sort of curse of an imagination that never shuts down, and we have some just outstanding staff, and we all work. There's always challenges in business, but we have some great people that pulling off some amazing stuff every day. So it's getting to be at the point where there's only so much any one person can do, and you have to get really talented, motivated people together to do what we're doing. And I couldn't be prouder of what everyone's accomplished that's worked for us. So it's pretty neat to see that coming together.
As your company grows, how do you learn to delegate things?
Really good question. I think it starts with my wife and I, for example, because we're 50-50 business partners, and we have very different roles. And we knew that, to be a husband and wife running a company, if we didn't have clearly defined roles and responsibilities, where one person has the executive decision authority for a certain amount of tasks or, whatnot, and the other, corresponds, you just wouldn't work, because if you have a real problem at work and you come home, the problem doesn't stop,
I work with my husband. I understand.
There you go. So that's where it all began. It was the first lesson we learned, because, when we started, it was just my wife and I. And when we opened our tasting room and production facility in downtown Prescott, we had a literal wall made of like heavy timber and glass. And that was actually one side of the wall was Jen and one side of the wall was me. And so, we would, of course, weigh in on decisions and stuff like that. But when it came to labels and mead, I was like, we're going this route, and she'd say, okay. And when it came to, what we're going to go with in the tasting room, or with, human resources or payroll and financial decisions, that was her. And she had the final say on that. And we still operate that way. And then what we realized is, as the company grows, we had to keep figuring out, who to promote from within, from our server or management staff, to take on new roles that were the things we were doing, so that we could, in turn, keep taking on new roles for ourselves. And I mean, there's things that I'll be doing for the company in a year or two that I don't even know about today. And there's always new stuff coming up, which I think it keeps it really fresh and exciting, and keeps everybody motivated. So when it comes to delegating, you have to try and figure out, who on your staff, if you're going to promote from within, and that's something we believe strongly in, to do a given task or perform a different job. And we try and maintain a good relationship with our folks, and try and, assess their abilities and see what they're interested in doing. And we found that as soon as someone expresses interest in doing something different, someone says, for example, I'd like to learn about sales and distribution, and you have a conversation, and you think, okay, it's clicking here, you're tracking kind of how things go. And then maybe someone starts to volunteer for doing a little extra work. Okay, I'm seeing initiative, I'm seeing understanding. And then you realize, hey, that's the person I can delegate something to. And then it's, there's sort of a testing process, really, right? Where you start to assign tasks, and you think to yourself, all right, are they going to do it? Are they going to communicate? How's it going to go? And when that's positive and works out, you increase the complexity. of what you're asking of your people. And as long as that, through whatever coaching or training is required, as long as your expectations are met, I think that's how you determine if you have, the right person for the job when it comes to delegating tasks. And we've identified, we actually had a strategic planning meeting today. And it was the first time we did a real formal strategies, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. And we determined for our company that communication was our biggest challenge. It is different levels of work experience and generational differences and different interests and different, motivation folks. And, in this day and age with, running a company, you've got, all right, how do you communicate, right? You've got text messages, Facebook messages, Facebook Messenger, right? You've got Slack, Trello, email. How many emails do you have? And then how do you determine how you're even going to stick with any one of those, right? And then there's probably some other things I'm even leaving out, right? As far as just options, like remember the telephone, like you can call each other, as well.
Yeah,
and
those things.
like face-to-face meetings. You can leave a. I mean, who knows? Like there's so many ways to communicate, and one of the real benefits of the modern workforce is that folks these days understand technology. It's second nature, and I know I had to take a little sort of time to catch up. But years ago when technology became like really the model of business and how we communicate, and so we realized, hey, we need to really figure out what is the best way moving forward. So we've been at Superstition going through sort of a trial on a lot of those different platforms I just referred to, and we're trying to figure out, hey, what works best for us. And so when it comes to delegating, I mean, it all comes down to communication. Was the message received, understood? How is it going? So you want to have people that are flexible, and that's really important, I think, because as an entrepreneur, as someone starting a business from scratch that's willing to risk all their credit and their house and their cars and your families, anything you've ever saved, you have to be flexible. And I think that in a way, your successful staff that you're able to, bring with the company and that you're able to, delegate tasks to, they're going to kind of share that spirit and that vision with you and be, they have to buy into what it takes to grow a company from scratch, because you're not just going to work for, IBM or, Amazon or something. You're working for a family business. And I don't think that there may not even be any meaderies out there that are like you could compare to, a big business, by the definition of small and medium business. So, yeah, it's a really interesting question.
It is. Gandalf on the chat asked, how did you engineer the production area, pipes, valves, tanks, and whatnot?
All right. So we knew that we needed 4 drains, and there's, a standard, quarter foot per inch and some basic brewery engineering or floor drain engineering that goes into that. We decided to do something a little different. And instead of having like those U-shaped, like 4-inch wide drains you see in a brewery, ours were formed into the concrete, and we have 1 foot wide steel grating over those that you can walk on. You wouldn't want to walk on it with high heels or flip-flops. But, with work boots, you can walk up and down these aisles. So we have 3 of those in between these different sections of the flooring. And so that we're able to kind of squeeze in tanks back to back. And so that the fronts and the valves, the access to those tanks can really just abut the floor drains and still allow us to get the tubing that connects to we have 2 different really awesome these days wine pumps that move things around so we can still access everything. We've got, a glycol system where, like when you get to a certain size glycol chiller, it's got to be outside, and all of our plumbing is, suspended and drops down to the tanks wherever we need it. One thing that was really interesting in engineering is from our honey pump to our wine pumps to, common power tools, we've got 3-phase power and 220 and, 110. And so we have all these different types of plug configurations and different types of, electrical needs. So we had, these different, power cords and boxes hanging down from the ceiling. And we did that in 2 locations in every one of those aisles over the drains, thinking that, well, that's where we're going to be working. And so that, that was one of the things we, sort of foresaw before we, went and built this building. But there's things that you don't even think about until you buy a piece of equipment and you're like, I need a CO2 tank outside, and it's got to be plumbed in, and it's got to help operate the bottling line and the keg cleaner and the flip top closing machine. So it's been really learning, trial by fire. And I think that, if you had the time to just do research and really learn everything that goes into designing a winery or a brewery, because, still no one's written a book on how to have a professional meadery and put all this stuff together. So you have to sort of pull from these other industries that have figured out how to use the identical equipment that you wind up using to make mead or cider. And you just learn. And when people say in a construction project, for example, you're always going to go over budget, I hear that all the time. And I was like, whatever, how can you just research it and plan it out and write it down? And, how much can it be? You figure out, I need to buy this piece of equipment, and then you're like, I need all these other things to make it work, and then someone's got to bring it to you, and sometimes it's really heavy, and you got to rent a crane, and all of a sudden, you're thousands of dollars, and tons of percents over everything. So, boy, I tell you, it has been quite a learning experience, and it's again been really cool to see how our staff has just, embraced that challenge and done the research and reached out to our friends and mentors and figured it out. And, I wouldn't have it any other way, because it's a lot of fun to create not just mead, but a business and a production space. And there's so many challenges. They never end. They're always coming at you. And you've got to be able to smile and laugh and go, this is another crazy day. This is out of control, but we're going to figure it out. And we always do. And you just can't give up. And you keep figuring it out. You keep doing the work. And you walk into your place one day and, no one's in there and it's quiet because it's, maybe Saturday morning. And you walk around and you just marvel at, what you've accomplished. And you're like, we pulled this together, all of us working, figuring it out, using our brains, and it's really cool to see that happen. I couldn't imagine doing anything different right now in life. It's really awesome. So, and part of that is, the whole engineering of meadery and figuring it out. So some things I guess you can plan for and foresee, and other things you just got to figure out as you move along.
Yeah, it's crazy. Ryan says that he's got a question. Ryan? Oh, Ryan. Did we lose Ryan? No, he's still there.
Can you hear me?
There you go. Unmute yourself, dude.
Hello. I had it on mute, so I wasn't interrupting you guys and didn't realize it until you kept saying hello. So, Jeff, earlier in your conversation, in passing, you mentioned that through some of your equipment upgrades, you were able to buy better equipment, which then equated to a better end product. I would be curious to ask, and maybe if you listed them kind of in sequential order, what was the thing that you did that subsequently gave you the best improvement in your mead, and then maybe quickly just walk down the list a little bit of different things that you upgraded from where you were to where you currently are, and what improvements you saw, and if you had anticipated those, or if those came by accident and not really being something on the expectation list.
All right. That is a big question, but I'll give you some examples, I think. So when we first started bottling, we would borrow a gravity feed filler from the winery. We shared equipment and utilities and all that. And, you have inconsistent fill levels. You're worried about oxidation. And, hey, it got the job done, and for us, it was something we were able to use for free, which was cool. And then we, after we moved into our production space in downtown Prescott, for example, we didn't have access to that gravity filling. We had to figure out a solution right away. And we wound up going with this 4-head bottle filler. And I can send you information if you email where we got it. And basically it was this automated machine with a pump, and we had argon attached. So the quality went from a gravity filler to being able to, fill a bottle with argon gas to displace the oxygen before we fill it filling it with a timer that went to the hundredths of a second